something was missing in my profession. And what was missing was the space to think.
You became a coach to help people, but no one told you how to build the business behind it. Welcome to Coach as Entrepreneur, the show for coaches building real businesses with systems, strategy, and heart. Build a system, serve your clients, and support your family. Today's guest is Annelise Pesa, an executive and leadership coach with over a decade of experience empowering senior professionals and legal executives to unlock their unique strengths. With her background as a senior international finance lawyer and expertise in positive psychology and an NLP, Annalise brings a rare combination of high stakes industry insights and transformational coaching strategies. She's an author as well as contributing writer for a number of publications, as well as participating in a number of philanthropic initiatives. Welcome to the show, Annalise.
Thank you, David, and thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
I'm so excited. I love your energy, and I've enjoyed getting to know you, even in the short conversations that we've had. For our guests who don't know who you are, do you mind kind of introducing yourself, where you currently are in the world, and how it is that you got into coaching?
Well, I want to start where I am in the world at the moment. I am in Italy. I usually work from here, but I'm based in London most of the time. As you said, I'm an executive and leadership coach. I've been in the industry for over 10 years, and I work for legal executive and senior professional, especially in leadership development.
Yeah, thank you for introducing yourself and what it is that you're doing. I'm interested in how did you, because you were an international finance lawyer, and
Yes.
I haven't met a lot of lawyers who have become coaches. So I'm interested to understand, and I'm sure other people are too, is how do you go from international finance law to executive coaching?
Yeah, I basically started to cultivate the idea of coaching because I was realizing more and more that something was missing in my profession. And what was missing was the space to think. So I was working in a very high pressure environment. I worked in Morgan Stanley for almost 10 years. And before I was working for Magic Circle law firm, Clifford Chance and Linklaters. And there are environments whereby, especially 20 years ago, you kind of really go, 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 go without stopping. And there was no time to breathe and no time to reflect. So I was always in reactive mood.
Mm.
And I was feeling there was like no time to stop and reflect and grow and think with clarity. It was always like almost being in a battlefield and defend yourself rather than thinking, okay, where do I need to go now? What's my next step? And so I realized that missing link was coaching. And I so much wanted to provide that space for other lawyers so that they would enjoy their profession. They would do it because they loved it. They would help their team to grow and contribute to their client success rather than being in toxic environment. I've done it to make law a better profession.
Thank you. I mean, my idea of like law firms is probably based around criminal TV shows, like the cop TV shows like Law and Order and Suits. And so
Yeah.
it never seems like in those shows, well, especially in Suits, that these are well-adjusted characters. They've always got some kind of chip on their back and they need to prove something. And so,
Yes, yes, that's a very good point. Yes, so there is a lot of not everyone, but so many people are they need to prove, as you said, something, and it's all
mm,
about themselves and how good they are, rather than making the team growth, making the firm grow. And yes, they serve the clients, but because they need to demonstrate they're the best. So I just wanted to kind of put, my contribution into law firm and legal department in a way that we rediscover the true essence of being a lawyer, which is
Yeah,
actually fight for justice, fight for good things. Even if we are
right.
looking at a transaction, we still have ethics. We still have a code of ethics. We still have a moral code, and we still want to act with values which are cooperation, contribution, interest of the clients, interest of the team, when they are not in conflict.
Yeah, and I think that's wonderful. And I think if any industry, I'm just thinking about it, most lawyers they go to school to study the law and to, you know, to provide legal, advice and go to court and all that stuff, right? But then when you're talking about a legal organization, a firm, they're not necessarily building the leadership and personal development schools in school, in building the leadership development skills at school. And so I think what you're doing is very good, right? Because they need to build a team, you need to have the skills to do that. Where are you going to get those skills? And so that's great.
Exactly, because otherwise, what happens, especially now, maybe when I was a lawyer, was a little bit different, but now you don't retain talents if you don't have a good leader. People leave bad bosses, they don't leave bad jobs. So if you're not a good leader, if you cannot retain talent, if you can't cultivate psychological safety at work, it may well be that you lose people and then you lose business, because you don't have enough lawyer, and so you
Mm.
cannot make everyone work 20 hours a day. Otherwise, people have burnout and so on and so forth. So you do need a balance.
Mhm.
And so, leadership skills are incredibly important because they are selfless skill. A leader is not there. We have to depart from the idea of the leader being the one that is the boss and everyone listen to me and does what I want them to do, because otherwise people will leave and you will be on your own at some point.
Yeah. And you can't run a major organization that serves multinational clients that way. I imagine when you have your conversations with potential clients, it's a very straightforward conversation of you can either work with me or you're going to just continue losing your best talent.
Yeah, I mean, of course, I don't have to convince anyone to work with me. I usually provide chemistry sessions, and I guess for me, like when I am in the chemistry session, I really like to meet the clients at the level they're in. Like some
Yeah,
of them, they've got very little emotional intelligence simply because in the environment that they're in is not that much developed. So I try to make a step back and to really understand what is it that you need from coaching, and how this can improve your work-life balance, your team performance. And so we start with the
yeah.
result, okay, and the goal and the vision and what we want to reach. And then, we can see that how you reach it is through your transformation.
That's great. I think that's very helpful for others to understand is how to even run a chemistry session. And I'm just thinking about it. So typically when you do a chemistry session, are you running these like 30 minutes, an hour? How do you kind of structure that?
Yeah, I usually keep it to 30 minutes because in the past I was offering an hour and a half. And, I was like, okay, an hour and a half of coaching, then, maybe because, like I was like a less experienced coach. I was like, okay, so if you want, we can have a follow-up. So I will have like 3 hours coaching, and then they would say, oh, no, I will think about it and things. So now I am, much better to understand and to narrow the focus rather than covering everything in their life and business. I just say,
Yeah.
okay, what is your main issues? And we go there, and I just focus on whether I can help in that issue. And then when you coach, then you open it up to everything, right? Rather than opening it up to everything and then going to the issue.
Mm. I think that's a really important point of how to be efficient with that time and protecting your time because you're running a business as well.
Yes, yes, absolutely. As I said, you meet them where they are and really understand. You can't talk about, transformation because at the end of the day, leadership development is a self-transformation journey, right?
Yeah.
It's not just reaching a specific goals, but who you become in that journey. And so, but you can't talk about that if, the person is not used to self-reflect, to think about, awareness and responsibility and how do I contribute to everything that there is around me, It's not
Yeah.
just everyone's fault or the system or the politics or the world we live in.
Hmm. So I imagine after 10 years, you've probably had some clients who are really oblivious to some of those things. How have you had to like work around or bring them around to understanding that these are things that are important that they need to work on?
Creating trust, creating
Mm.
trust between me and them, and making them feel safe that I wasn't there to, put them in a difficult position. I wasn't there to, I was there to support them. I was there for them. And I was there to, make them, better professional. And as we said at the beginning, who you are and what you do, they're not like separate. They are the same, the other side of the coin. So if you become a
Yeah.
better person, better professional. So by creating an environment of trust, of understanding, of support, they open up and they start, we start to go deeper on those subjects.
I imagine that as you're working with these lawyers and they're working on these skills that they may not have ever really thought about or worked on, right? Self-reflection and all of these different ideas. I imagine that after, generally, do you work with leaders for 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, or longer?
I have worked with all those different, you can imagine in my 10 years
Yeah.
career as a coach, I've worked for 3 months, for 6 months, nine
Mhm.
months, and 12 months.
Okay.
Really depends.
Yeah.
It's about 6 months.
Hmm.
Uh, and I had some, like I worked for an engineering firm and, I worked
Yeah.
with them 2 years for 1 year each.
I see. So, because I bring that up because I imagine that after like 6 to 12 months, after these professionals are working on these skills that they really haven't necessarily ever had to develop, that there's been a lot of change over that process.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, like, but also, like this firm that I was working with, they're based in Italy.
Hmm.
Uh, and, they were doing really, really well, and then there was some really bad flooding in this area of Italy, and like industries, farm were destroyed by terrible, terrible flooding, like serious ones. So they had to start again, and it was like a profound moment of, resetting and growing again and resilience. So it was really important that I was there. And I think they did grow a lot as a
Yeah,
team as well.
yeah, I imagine that that team would have become a really tight group having
Yeah.
to overcome those challenges because it's in those situations where you really kind of form bonds that are because it's like people fighting in a battle, right? You get really tight with that group of people.
But also, what really impressed me, because I worked with the leader for 2 years, and he was like a leader that was like, it's my way or the highway.
Mm,
And like he changed a lot. He understood that he needed to listen to other people, that he needed to ask questions rather than impose his own views, needed to understand other point of view. So yeah, so there was a lot of change there, and he really could see
Yeah.
the effect he had on the team performance.
Yeah. It's amazing that people don't realize the impact that their behavior has on just a group of individuals, but with especially when you're a leader within an organization, it it's profound.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's wonderful. That's amazing that you have these stories of such wonderful transformation and change and development because most of the time, like that doesn't just impact them at their workplace, right? What how they change through the work that you do at work also impacts the rest of their lives, right? Because you're not going to be able to isolate that within just the office, right?
Yes, absolutely. I agree.
As you were kind of building out your business in the early years and even now, as you were building that up, did you have anybody in your life or other coaches who were helping you along the way, mentors or friends that you might have done certifications with? Were there any people like that in your life?
Yeah, well, I did have sort of like business coaches helping me because I soon realized, okay, this is different from being in a employed job. You've got to really generate your own business, which is something not quite the same as just coaching, although there are some overlaps. But like you have to be like marketing your business, you've got to be visible. And so I did work with few people. So I worked with Rich Litvin from the Prosperous Coach, which is quite a name in the industry. And I worked with Ajit Navalka and Nita Bhushan a few years ago. That he was the co-founder with Mandvale, Ever
Okay.
Coach. Um, and then recently I've been working with Leon Street, which is a business coach, marketing coach in the UK. Yeah, they're all very useful. Um, they're all very useful. It just takes much more than you think to have the mindset that in order to run your own business and in order to be a coach, you need to run a business. And in order to run a business, there are certain things you need to do, even if you don't like them, because otherwise you can't run a business.
Yeah. For you, was that like did you know that going into your coaching career or you had to just figure it out?
Yeah, I thought at the beginning I was quite naive. I thought, okay, well, I'll qualify as a coach, and then, like I'm a lawyer, I'm a coach. People will call me and say, oh, I want to work with you. Doesn't work that way, I'm afraid. And when I started, actually, more than 10 years ago, there were less people than now. Now it is so like Rich Litving used to say, everyone and their dog is a coach. No, everyone and their mom is a coach. Now everyone, their dog and their mom.
Yeah, I mean, I think coaching as a profession has steadily grown in
Yeah,
popularity from
yeah,
10 years ago till now. I think it's yeah, when I first got into the coaching industry, I think the median age of the coaches I was meeting were probably upper 50s to 65 or 70 actually. Because for most of the people I met, coaching was their second career or they were thinking about retiring and they didn't want to just stop working. Now I see that there's more people who are younger who are becoming coaches.
yeah. It's an interesting, but I think there's peak and trough. So I
Yeah.
think personally, I think that most of them, they don't have enough money, they don't make enough money, and so they will fall off. There is a clue at like a top sort of like busyness at the moment, but it will come down because
Yeah.
people are realizing is not that straightforward.
Yeah, it really isn't. It's very tough because, as you said, you realize that you need to do all of these things that you didn't have to do it when you were an employee, but you do have to do when you're a business owner.
Yeah,
And a lot of the things you may not like,
yeah,
like accounting or marketing
yeah,
or, how do I build a website? It's like,
yeah.
yeah,
No, it's so many different things. And even if you have help, which, like I'm realizing more and more, it's the way to go. But you still have to, like, you can't say to someone, okay, build a website. No, you've got to
yeah,
be there. You've got to guide them. You've got to meet with them. It's
yeah,
just, there's so much. There's so much.
yeah. Because you can't just hand that off because it's not like, when you're in an organization. So if within an organization, you generally have like an head of HR, you have a marketing department, you have a, sales department, or you have all of this different infrastructure in the
Yes.
organization to help so that you can actually just focus on what you do best, right? But then when you're building your own business, now you have to do everything.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, no, it can be overwhelming. And I remember a lawyer friends of mine said to me, "Oh my God, lucky you, you must have so much free time now that you're a coach." Because I was like, "Oh, I have 3 or 4 sessions a day, 5 sessions." So, "Oh, it's so easy. You work so, it's like you have no idea. Every session, it's like 5 hours of work."
yeah, and I mean, it can take a mental and emotional toll sometimes, right?
But
And
also in order for you to build that session, the marketing and then the website and the systems and and the work that you need also to do on yourself, that session is not just 1 hour, you
yeah,
know, it's so much more.
yeah, it's all of the unseen things that go into, you know, to being there and to be able to provide that service. It's kind of, it's kind of funny, like with my kids, sometimes it's just like, because everything is so convenient now, where it's like, oh, we can order and then the delivery th for whatever they want will be there the next day. And there's no really understanding of, how do you build it or package it or manufacture, and then somebody has to go and, put it to the delivery center or the factory, and then someone go pick it up and bring it out. There's no understanding of that infrastructure that goes into getting a package at your front door. And I think
Yes.
a lot of people, they just don't realize that just to do that 1 hour of coaching, as you're saying,
Yeah.
there's a lot of,
They don't. Yeah. Like they don't realize that the meat that is on your table doesn't come from a waitress. It comes from a farm, and an animal has been killed, and all there's been a process to get it there. There's a lot of work for that meat that you're eating, and it's the same with coaching,
yeah,
it's a good observation. It doesn't come just, okay, that's 1 hour of coaching, and oh my God, lucky you that you just do that. No,
yeah,
it's not. So
yeah,
yeah, it's a different proposition, but
yeah,
I guess everything has got, the other side of the coin.
right. I think one of the things that really impressed me was when we first had our initial talk was the number of like publications that you write for. And why did you start why did you start writing for all these different publications?
Yeah, well, simply because I think it's really good, like that your names is around as someone that writes things. And, I started well before the IE revolution happened. Like today, so many people, it's so easy to say, I just want to write an article on, leadership coaching and blah, 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 blah. But it's you can tell when something really goes straight into your heart, and when has been just written sort of like in a mechanic way.
Mm.
So I still believe in authenticity. I still believe that at the end of the day, when our heart, our soul comes out, and that's also true in writing, that's probably the best thing. And you, by coming out with different publication, you get to be known more, And if people trust you and see the true self, who you are truly and what values are important for you, and they trust you, they see your authentic self, I think then you will be more successful as a coach.
Yeah. And that makes a ton of sense. It's part of the I mean, honestly, it's part of the business development, being able to create visibility for yourself. And by being an author in different publications, you get in front of those audiences,
Yeah.
and then people start to because you're a regular author for those publications, correct? For many of
Yes.
those. So then when they think about leadership development or executive coaching, if they're regular readers of those publications, then they're seeing your name. And so when they
Yes.
think about, oh, I've got this problem, or somebody I know is looking for something, they'll be
Yeah.
thinking about you. I don't imagine it's easy, and I don't imagine like getting started was easy, but now that you've been doing it, I assume, it continues to just kind of continues to bring in new clients and new opportunities for you.
I mean, sometimes, in coaching and in marketing, sometimes you do things and they don't necessarily give you an immediate return. So, but the fact that you are more visible, I mean, sometimes, yes, some clients, but sometimes it's just a question of like, hey, I wrote this article, and so people started to see you more, they trust you more. And it's good for your confidence, but it's also good for your visibility, generally speaking. And
Yeah.
then you've got more chance that people trust you and they
Yeah.
want to you.
Yeah, I definitely think it helps a lot with your authority and trust building, because not
Mhm.
everybody has written a book or has been in magazines or other publications. But would you want to go with like buy a product from a well-known brand or from a no-name brand? Generally, you want to go with the well-named brand because it's well branded, you know it, you can trust it. Yeah.
Yes, that's right. That's right. I think I come back to the point of if people see you and listen to you or read what you write, and they will
Mhm.
trust you more. You can't just be behind curtains and, thinking that people are going to knock at your door and say, I want to work with you.
It'd be nice, but yeah,
Be
it's
lovely.
unrealistic. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it'd be lovely.
So after a decade of running your own business, what's been something that's been really rewarding for you doing this?
The fact that you always have to question yourself, the fact that you have to continue to, because, you're not selling a product. I'm not selling desks or lipsticks, I sell lipsticks or like makeup, or if I sell, software, my product needs to improve. Maybe I should improve my marketing skills, but, as a person, I can be an asshole, well, not quite, but I guess even in that case, I need to improve as a person. But in a coach, there is no product, it's you. You are the product. So if you are not, so you just, in a way, if you sell a product, if you improve as a person, you've got more chance to sell a product, but you can still sell it, if you don't improve. If you're a coach, you stagnate, and if you don't improve, you won't progress. So
Yeah,
what I love about it is that my professional development is actually try to be a better person.
I love it. That's wonderful.
Mhm.
Um, Early on and now, so compared to like the first 2 years of business and now, how do you feel like you've grown in the way you handle marketing and sales, and even the service delivery of coaching? How has that kind of changed and progressed for you?
I had no clue in the first 2 years what I was doing. I mean, I was obviously coaching and I was finding my feet. And people think like they make me laugh. They come to the market as new coaches and they're like they will a little bit like me. Oh, okay, now I'm a coach. Now I'm gonna get work, And I'm like, or even if they make some post on social media, and after a while they're like, yeah, but people don't call me. Don't, and it's like, well, good luck. I mean, it takes a long time, first of all, as in like in terms of your coaching skills, in order to really be good at it, and that's why, like being an ICF coach is really, really important because you've got the measure of experience, of studying, of
Hmm.
um, reflection, and so on and so forth. But also, all the running a business, it really does take time. It does take time. And if you've
Yeah.
got a family and you cannot focus 12 hours a day because you've got other engagement.
You didn't become a coach to be a marketer. But if you want to build a sustainable business, you need a system that works for you while you're coaching. Coach Ops is designed to help you go from unpredictable referrals to a reliable marketing system without it feeling pushy or salesy. If you're ready to build something systematic, visit kyber5.com/coach ops.
And also sometimes life hits, someone, passes, or like you get an illness or something, it takes time. You
Yeah,
can't just say, like at work, you say, I take grief leave or maternity leave, or,
yeah,
when you run your business, no one is going to pay you.
yeah. Again, it'd be nice, but it's not the reality of things. Um, what is one thing that you would advise new coaches to focus on to start building up kind of that business acumen?
Hmm. Good question. I think you focus on first of all, be patient. If you think the results are going to come, soon, then sorry, but you are going to get really disappointed. So arm yourself with patience and treat this as a job. Like, if you think, oh, I've got freedom, I can wake up in the morning whenever I want, and then no, you have to have a schedule because there is no boss telling you, David, at 9 o'clock, you've got to wake up and do your social media post, or you've got to do this. No one is going to tell you that. So have discipline, have patience, and you know, try to find help if you can, because it's really hard to do it on your own, and try to find some business coaches or marketing coaches that can help out. I think
Mhm.
it's important when
Yeah.
you are, especially at the beginning. But I think, like, I think for me, marketing coaches are like personal trainer. Like
Mhm.
I don't need them all the time, but every now and then when my business is on a verge of something and I'm like, I need some help now,
Yeah.
I do the same with personal trainer. I exercise, I'm really good at being consistent and everything, but every now and then I'm like, it's starting, summer is coming, I'm just gonna get a trainer.
I think that's really good point. It's I mean, even with marketing, I find like seasonally things, you know, you have to kind of change things up. You can't rely on the same thing to continue working all the time. And building a business for 10 years, I'm sure you've had something that
Yeah.
worked at the beginning that
Yeah.
stopped working eventually, and then you had to kind of pivot and transition, right? So then when you have to kind of pivot and transition, those are like the times that you go out and seek help and kind of try to find out like how do you pivot and how do you readjust for whatever the situation is. Is there like a system that you've kind of built for yourself to make sure that you're working on your business and like the different like business development, professional development? Like, do you set aside, how do you
Yeah,
set
I
aside
use
time for that stuff?
the client relationship management app, like software called Capsule.
Hmm.
I've got like a team of assistants that help me to manage that. I manage recording of sessions, videos, and stuff like that. I am not like, probably technology is a part that I should improve.
Hmm.
Uh, so I'm looking to collaborate with some people that are more technical than me, for example, in doing some coaching courses, like, recording courses in, let's say, communication or leadership development or things like this.
Hmm.
Um, and so I am starting to collaborate with others because, I'm not good at tech. So
Yeah.
I need, yeah.
Yeah. And you don't need to be good at everything. You just need to be able to find the right people to help you with those things, right? And I think again, that's something that's important in business is uh, you are good at something, you don't need to be good at everything. And for all of that, you can always find help and support for those things. Um, when you kind of look back at yourself 10 years ago, would there have been anything that you would have done differently? Like from where you are today, if you could go back and tell yourself when you started, what would you have given yourself advice about?
Yeah, to learn marketing first, to qualify as an ICF coach. It took me a while to understand that was quite important. And to be patient, with setback and, don't give up when things look not the best, because it's easy to say, oh, this is not working. But if it's your passion, then you have to continue. If you give up, it wasn't your passion, maybe.
That's interesting that you say that, and it's it makes sense. About, there are times where you kind of feel like you want to give up. I assume you said that because was there a moment in this coaching process where you're thinking about giving up?
Oh yeah, few times. Few times I was like, I'm fed up with this. I was a lawyer, Morgan Stanley, and now, sometimes, people say, oh no, I'm not interested. What's coaching? Blah, 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 blah. Or like, you do free work for a potential client and then they just don't want to engage, or like some people say, oh, like I'm like a healing coach, and which kind of coach are you? And I'm like, I'm an executive coach. Okay, maybe we should do something together. And I'm like, no, no, we are covering completely different grounds. And because you don't need a study, you know path to, like when you become a lawyer, you do need law degree, you need to pass the bar exams, you need to do the practice. To do a coach, you could be like a 3 month course and you're qualified as a coach. So sometimes, you know there is a bit of confusion on the quality of someone's work, and that could be frustrating. But I think the most frustration is found when you have period of stagnation, that's quite
Oh,
frustrating.
yeah. How did you how did you work through that? Like those periods of stagnation?
Um, well, first of all, sometimes you just are upset, like you need to be, you can't just, okay, bit stagnation, doesn't matter, la 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 la. No, I have to elaborate that. And I'm like, okay, that's shit, excuse my French. What is it that I'm not doing correctly? But first I listen to myself and my emotion, maybe give myself a little bit of time to be upset, and then what is it that I need to change from a mindset perspective first, and then acting, what is it that I need to do differently? But
Yeah.
before doing it differently, I need to reflect my mindset. Where is my mindset? Where is my energy?
I mean, it's again, it's being realistic. It's really hard when you're running your own business. You don't have the colleagues to talk with or share about, you know, who understand what you're doing, and you don't have those people to share necessarily right next to you, right? Or in the office right over.
Yeah.
If you're lucky, you can talk to your spouse, or most likely you don't have like people in your friend group who understand what it's like to be an entrepreneur, a business owner. And then
Yeah.
when you're talking about coaching, it's just like it's a whole different thing. So
Yes. Like it's really hard because you are on your own, and you don't. That's why I think it's important to have like a little bit of a network, apart from friends and family,
yeah.
having, some colleagues, some groups.
And I think that's really good advice because you need to be able to share and talk to somebody through with who understands the struggles that you're going through, not just with the service delivery part of it, but also understanding the business part of it and those frustrations. Before we close, I would really like to understand a little bit more because we talked about the publications and some of your book and your philanthropic work. I'd like to know a little bit about that and what kind of, what led to those things?
The book, because I wanted to write about my experience. I wanted to write about the fact that I have been through really difficult times and specifically potentially life-threatening illness, which, I overcome and like going through a lot of pain, and but I came on the other side,
Yeah.
and I wanted to say people have been there. I'm not just preaching from
Sure.
sort of like cotton wool chair, and like I know that so many people go through difficult things and then they succeed, and I want to help them. And it's not just what I've studied or the career that I've done, but it's also who I am as a person, and the fact that I've been through a lot in my life and I still have a lot of verve and energy and love for life. And I think it's a blessing. And then, with the philosophy that I have about coaching, that helps us to be our best self, even through difficulties. I wanted to say, I've been there and I
Yeah.
can understand.
Yeah. That's wonderful. And what was the name of the book?
Actually, it's called Unlock Your Hidden Potential.
Okay.
Unlock Your Hidden Potential. And it's like the Journey of Riches is the series. So it's
Mm,
like a series of book on personal development. And mine was about unlocking your potential
I see.
through, so coming from a really difficult situation, it comes that you sort of like come as your authentic self,
Mhm.
because you've got nothing to lose there, you've got to
Yeah.
develop who you are.
Okay. And we'll include a link to the book in the show notes. And so if people want to get check that out, they'll be able to do that.
So
You-
I wrote a chapter in the book, and there is other stories about that. And the what we get from the book has gone, which actually, by the way, was number one in the UK in personal development, in Australia, in Italy, Canada, in India, and I think also in Germany, um, and the United States. And everything that we get from the book has gone to an orphanage in Bali. So it's also for.
Wonderful. Yeah, that's wonderful. Um, yeah, so we'll definitely have that in the show notes and make sure to promote that. Um, before we close, I like to end the show asking this question, which is, as because we've been talking about your past and your kind of your current business. I'd like to ask, what is next? What do you envision next for your coaching business?
So I already done a few, in the past, a lot of team facilitation. I think although I do love one-to-one, I am shifting a lot on group coaching, and certainly on the table is much more team coaching because I love working with groups. I love working with teams. That's yeah. So I think that's my next and also a beautiful retreat in Italy.
Sounds wonderful. And I think that's great because we all need to take a break and relax and, kind of take time to center ourselves and actually take time to think, especially in our world today where we are constantly inundated with too much information, too much, well, social media, and just too much of everything. So I think that's wonderful.
That's true.
Annalise, I really appreciate your time today, and I'm really thankful for this opportunity to get to know you and to share your story with our audience. Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Thank you, David. It was a pleasure to be here. And yeah, for anything, whoever wants to be in touch, you can do that through social media, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and send me a message.
And we'll include all of those links in the show notes.
Fantastic. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Want to stop guessing and start building a marketing system that actually fills your calendar? Head to kyber5.com/coachops and let's get systematic. That's it for today's episode. I hope you grabbed something useful you can actually apply in your business. If you did, leave a comment or share it with a friend. And hit subscribe if you haven't already. I'll catch you next week.